Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening for another very special edition of WOWSA Live with our host, Ned Dennison.
Hello, everyone. I'm the chairperson of the International Marathon Swimming Hall of Fame. We have two elusive honorees who really won't subject themselves to interviews about themselves, which is Steve Munatones and Penny Palfrey. So we're compromising, and we're going to get Steve to talk about one of Penny's great swims. Just as an introduction, Steve was an elite racer, won one of the majors in our sport, was 9 years on the U.S. national coaching team, and for the last 20 years has been one of our sport's leading historians and reporters. So welcome, Steve.
Thank you very much.
Steve, tell us about your history with the Cayman Islands as kind of a build up to this epic swim of Penny's.
So my relationship with the Cayman Islands began in 2001. 2001 and 2002, I visited the Grand Cayman, and the U.S. national team did some training there, and we did some international events there. That was the time I first met Mr. Frank Flowers, who is now renowned as the founder and creator of a swim called the Flowers-Burke swim, a beautiful 1 mile swim on Grand Cayman. And his vision, which I wholeheartedly accepted, was actually to create an ocean swimming, a sea swimming, an open water swimming community, an international community in the Cayman Islands. And that idea took some years to formulate. And finally, after Penny's attempt to swim from Oahu to Kauai that ended, unfortunately, with some box jellyfish things, the timing was just right. And Mr. Flowers and I came up with this idea.
And describe the challenge of swimming between the Caymans.
Okay.
Distance, conditions.
Yeah. I'm going to share my screen so people can understand what we're looking at here. And this is 3 islands. This is south of Cuba. So we have Cayman Brac, Little Cayman, and Grand Cayman here. And this is about 108 kilometers between the west end here and the east end here. These are very sparsely inhabited islands. And we did a buildup. This whole event was called the Bridging of the Cayman Islands. So the bridging from Cayman Brac to Little Cayman to Grand Cayman. We did a pre-swim. This is about, I think it's 8 kilometers, the course that we did. Did that a few days before Penny was tapering for the swim. But in between the time we completed the swim and her longer swim here, a storm front came in and the swim was halted for, I think, 3 days, which put a little bit of hesitation. Again, I'll go through all the sponsors she received. Mr. Flowers could not be more supportive of her swim. He provided everything: air flights, ground transportation, hotel accommodations, everything. We had a 65-foot escort boat and ribs, kayaks. We had everything. We had radio communications. I had been down to meet Mr. Flowers 6 times to plan out this. It was well covered. We had a top-notch crew. Penny had requested 2 of her most experienced kayakers to escort her. One was Jeff Kozlovich from Honolulu, who had escorted Penny across the Molokai Channel and in her attempt between Oahu and Kauai. And she also brought in Richard Clifford from New York, who had helped her do several Manhattan Island swims. So he really rolled out the red carpet. And so that was a challenge. In this area, there are plenty of sharks, white tips, and various kinds. But really the big challenge were twofold. One was the jellyfish, box jellyfish and jellyfish of all types, and weather. Sharks did appear. They did surround her, but the combination of Richard Clifford, the local seaman, and Jeff Kozlovich really helped keep a handle on that situation. And it was really the weather, and that's why we had to wait until the storm front passed through, and she was able to swim this a distance in a little over 40 hours.
For some of the viewers, I kind of cringe when people say they're going to take on a big swim. They're going to fly out alone. It's going to be their first big swim, and they're going to have the locals are going to provide the crew. And I always think, I'm sure the locals will try to do a great job, but on a big swim, there's nothing as comforting than looking up and seeing people you know, people that care about you. You can even imagine they all love you to pieces as you're struggling out there, and just having them there is always a great comfort. So it's interesting that Penny, picked a crew again, and those kayakers that were going to be next to her were kind of 2-3 meters away in a face that she knew from the old days.
Right.
Steve, talk to us about the plan, and in particular the decision to wear a stinger suit, and how well that worked.
Yeah. So Mr. Flowers and I had talked about this idea. Would it even be possible for someone to swim 108 kilometers? And there are not a lot of people out there who are capable of that. We look back now and we have Chloe McCardle, we have Caroline Block, we have Jamie Monahan, we have Sarah Thomas, the big names in our sport who have done massive marathon swims over 40, 50 hours in recent times. But when we look back in 2010, when this event happened, that sort of had fallen out. Of course, we had Vicky Keith, we had Susie Maroney years before, who had done some very long swims of 38, 40, 45, 56 hours. But in 2010, Sarah Thomas, Caroline Block, Jamie Monahan, Chloe McCardle had not yet done their massive swims. So Penny was really the premier female long distance swimmer at the time. So our first goal was to pick an individual who this was possible. This was going to be a huge promotion for the entire country, which we'll see in a video that they prepared. And we had to see somebody who had the capability of even swimming this. And Penny, from everything from her, English Channel swims and Manhattan Island swims and swims throughout the state of Hawaii, showed that capability. But the last swim that she did before this attempt was the swim from Oahu to Kauai, where she was stung on both her attempts with box jellyfish, just really, really painful jellyfish stings. So after that experience, Penny and I sat down, and Penny is a very traditional open water swimmer. She doesn't touch a boat, doesn't touch her handler. Everything is done extremely by the very strictest rules. And she was very nervous about doing another swim where she could encounter box jellyfish or any kind of venomous creatures out there. Once you've been stung by a box jellyfish, you never forget. I know there are all kinds of jellyfish in the world, over 250 different types. There's a lion's mane up near you, Ned, but really the box jellyfish are just, you can't forget it. And, she didn't want to wear a stinger suit. She didn't want to wear anything protective that would be against the traditional rules of marathon swimming. And it was my opinion that she could not do this swim if she didn't wear the suit. In other words, she would be hit by jellyfish and it would cause a failure. And failure is something that the sponsors did not want to see. So we some of the meetings, pre-meetings of the swim, was to identify when the box jellyfish and other venomous creatures would appear. Very similar to in Hawaii, very similar to Diana Nyad and Penny herself in the Straits of Florida between Havana, Cuba, and Key West, Florida. We knew they would come out as the sun set. Box jellyfish are photophobic, which means they're very deep, and they swim deep in the ocean in the daytime, and then as night falls, they come rising up to the surface. So Penny did wear a stinger suit, a porous stinger suit. Again, it may appear on camera to be a wetsuit. It is not a wetsuit. It's not made of neoprene. Like Diana Nyad, like Penny in her Cuba swim, this is a porous suit. It actually is heavy. It actually is much more difficult to swim with a stinger suit than it is for a regular suit. And a lot of people think that, oh, you've got this suit, it's like a wetsuit, it keeps you very buoyant on the surface of the water. It does not. It is like you're swimming in a heavy t-shirt. It's difficult. And so she did wear that. She didn't immediately say, yes, I want to do it. I mean, she really had to think about it. And finally, she wanted to do a grand adventure. And she accepted the fact that swimming with the stinger suit was part of the deal. And because WOWSA, the World Open Water Swimming Association, ratified this, it was all very fine to us.
So this is a situation where upfront, with full transparency, you say, look, we're going to make one exception to published rules, and it's a stinger suit.
Yes. Yes.
How did she put this thing on and take it off? Did she put it on at sundown and take it off at dawn? Or,
Yes.
I can just imagine trying to do that and getting double leg cramps or something. How do you physically do that?
Well, Penny was in incredible shape. Again, Penny was in her late 40s. She had just come back from basically 10 years of a lot of great swims. Rottnest Channel in Western Australia, where she did numerous times, and a lot of these other major swims. So she was, Ned, as you always say, she had big swim memory. She was totally capable, and she was very dialed in. She had just come off of 2 disappointed failures. So she was really motivated. She trains and she lived in Queensland. So the warm water conditions that she had trained in was very similar to this. Water temperatures and air temperatures were very warm. And so she was imminently prepared for this. So even though the swim was 40 hours, she had done similar swims, not quite 40 hours, but very close. And so when she, as sun was setting, we know that the poisonous, venomous creatures come rising to the surface of the ocean, following the food chain. And right before then, I'd say about a half an hour, just out of abundance of caution, she would stop. All of the male escort crew, Richard Clifford, Jeff Kozlovich, myself, and others would turn and face the boat. Penny would, remove the stuff and put on the suit. It's all done very gentlemanly. She had no problems, taking off what she had and putting it back on. We had a rib right next to her, a rubber raft next to her, and that's where we fed her. That's where we, told her information she needed to know. And that's where we had her stinger suit. She put it on throughout the night hours. She took it off past sunrise, again, in abundance of caution. And she just kept on swimming. Her stroke was very solid. The conditions were relatively calm. I mean, there was still the texture on the ocean, but she had some fairly good conditions. The problem was around this area, because the water has such high salinity, everything in your body starts to expand. That includes the interstitial fluid that you have in between the cells of your skin. And when that expands in all your porous areas, that means her throat was starting to close up. Everything is inflamed. Her jowls and her cheeks puffed out. Her eyes and everything became very soft. It's not a pleasant thing to look at all, but she was having problems swallowing anything. But we knew that she still had 10, 15 hours to go. And we needed fluid. We needed her to feed. Now, part of this pre-race, pre-swim planning was literally to have a helicopter ready. We had a helicopter ready with a giant tub of ice cream. We didn't know it was necessary, but we had it on the standby. So Penny's swimming around the 25th hour. She's starting to have problems drinking and eating. It was not a safety issue. It was just difficulty. And we know this is a fact, whether it's Chloe McCardle, doing her long world record swim, or Diana Nyad. And I'd had many other experiences in the Caribbean and in Hawaii and Fiji, et cetera. So I knew this phenomenon would occur. So when the time came, I radioed Mr. Flowers, who was at headquarters back in Georgetown on Grand Cayman. And I said, prepare the helicopter. And they had that big tub of chocolate ice cream ready. We literally saw this helicopter come in the middle of the Caribbean Sea, hover above the escort boat, and we literally brought the tub of ice cream down. Penny knew what was going on. I mean, you're out there with nobody, and all of a sudden a helicopter comes. You could certainly hear it, and we could certainly see it. It made her so happy. We got the tub of ice cream. By that time, again, it's starting to melt. So it was the perfect, if you like chocolate shakes, if you like chocolate malt, this was the thing to take. If anybody does a 24-hour plus swim, I always recommend chocolate ice cream. Vanilla, if you're into vanilla, but it really hit the spot. So we put it in a cup. She was able to suck it down. It went down nice and easy, and it really helped her that last 10 hours.
So I'm probably like a lot of other people who've had a few did not finish swims. I'm going to relabel them. I'm going to call them DNH. Did not have helicopter.
Yes.
I think, just thinking of the times like frozen and a bit of, hot chocolate sundae or something would have gone down well. Okay. So at the end, Steve, before we get to the video, Penny is a very attractive lady. It was not a pretty sight, the end of the swim. As somebody who's been in the sport a long time, and we've had this conversation before, 25 years ago, we used to keep people in the water until they were in really, really bad shape. It was said not only borderline dangerous, it was dangerous. We spoke to David Clark from the Catalina Federation a while ago, and he said their job is no longer to keep people alive. Their job is to keep them from ever going to the hospital. How do you make a call on somebody like a Penny Palfrey at the end, where she's having trouble breathing because her throat's and everything's constricted, her face is all swollen? Do you do it on stroke count? Do you have a conversation with her? She's making sense. How do you judge that safety versus making your sponsors happy?
Yes. So in warm water conditions are highly water that have a high salt content are much different than cold water swims. Much different. The visuals you have to set aside, because in warm water, high salt content water, the visuals of your face appear horrific. You look scary, literally. And so if you put that aside and she was still able to breathe. That's not a problem. It was just the eating that was hard. It was the swallowing that was hard. So her stroke count was unbelievable. It was almost consistent the entire way. Now, about 5 kilometers out, I actually got out of the boat and was motored into the finish area. In the Caribbean islands, a lot of them are surrounded by coral reefs, and I knew there was nothing I could do around the coral reefs. She was in very good hands with Richard Clifford and Jeff Kozlovich, two people who had spent hours, many hours with Penny on the ocean. So they were going to guide her through the break in the coral reef. Again, she finished, I believe, at around 10 at night. So she had the most dangerous part of the swim actually was trying to find an opening in the reef at night. Again, this is pitch black. And by the reef, the giant mothership, the 65-foot boat, couldn't get through. She only had the small ribs and the kayaks. So I put, or Penny put her trust in those gentlemen and that team, all locals. We had actually, I believe we had seamen from 11 countries on her swim. We got the best of the best from the Caribbean. We had shark experts, we had jellyfish experts, we had oceanographers. We had the best of the best. So she was in very good hands. So to answer your question, her stroke rate was fine. When you ask her a question, cognitively, she was fine. It just that because her throat and her tongue was very much swelled, it was difficult to understand her. You know, when your tongue gets big and thick, it sounds, it doesn't sound natural, but the fact that she was able to quickly answer showed us that she was well within the bounds of safety. I just wanted to go to the finish here. The crowd that had appeared at the end of the swim was tremendous. It was a tremendous crowd. 10 at night, and it seemed like the entire population of Grand Cayman had come to this little tiny beach. And I was just afraid that the crowd, it was covered live by radio. We had television cameras. It was well covered throughout. And so when she landed, I just didn't want anybody the crowd to sort of go around her. So she was well within the bounds of safety. There's no way she could have done it two-way, no way. But, you know, she got there and she was swimming quite fine. We'll see at the end of the swim where after 40 hours, she sort of stumbles on the beach, but that isn't an issue. We did have an ambulance and medical staff ready for her. We knew she would be hydrated. We knew that, you know, she had swelled up. So we had taken to her hospital, and next day she was giving interviews.
And for Penny, who will eventually listen to this, that comment about the two-way was not meant as a challenge in any way, Penny. It was not meant as a challenge.
No.
The other thing for a lot of people might not understand, even in a relatively short English Channel swim, it's quite common for the swimmer's mouth to peel afterwards, the inside, just from the salt being in the water for 10, 12, 20 hours, much less 40. So this saltwater thing is quite a common thing in the sport. And Penny's one of those people who pushed it, you know, way out there in the 40-hour range, which, as Steve noted, hadn't been done too many times willingly.
Yeah. So I'm going to I'm going to share my screen again, and we'll just enjoy a 10-minute a summary of this thing, and you'll see how just incredible Penny is. She has my highest respect, as do all the swimmers that I mentioned during this podcast. It just is beyond what I thought. Throughout this video, I'd either be swimming next to her, or I would be in the boat next to her. So I had a firsthand view of everything she did. And here we go. Just share this. And this gives the particulars. She started at 10:07 on June 12th in 2001 and swam for over 40 hours. It was 108 kilometers.
We started around October last year. Mr. Flowers was looking for a marathon swimmer that might be capable of bridging the Cayman Islands swim and the Cayman Islands. And Stephen Munatones from LA, who knows just about everything about open water swimming, put my name forward, and they contacted me, asked me if I was interested, and absolutely yes. And here we are today.
She started swimming yesterday at 5:20 in the morning. She has not stopped since. She has been surrounded by 4 sharks. She has been stung by jellyfish, and she's been eating gel packs, chocolate, porridge, and a lot of energy drinks. She's very, very weak. She is coming up on her 40th hour of constant swimming. When she gets in, when she comes through, she's going to be very, very weak. And we appreciate the crowd separating so she could be taken directly to the hospital. Thank you very much. Well, this is the culmination of the greatest adventure in the 21st century. She started out at 5:20 yesterday morning. In the night, she hit something. She does not know what it was. It was solid. She also got hit by jellyfish. She's swimming constantly for 40 hours.
Being a part of this is being a part of history, and for this lady to undergo this, it speaks to all women that we can do whatever we set our minds to do. And this is not just about women. This is about anybody who would undertake testing themselves to see what they can endure.
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. What this will do for sports tourism and sports here in the Cayman Islands. The community's out. Everybody's excited about it, not just here at East End, but throughout the community in Cayman. Not just the sports community, but everybody seems to be coming together to witness this piece of history.
We're all looking forward to this. There was a lot of effort and work from both the organizers as well as her crew members, who are all very supportive of her, and all of the sponsors and everyone out here has just been so supportive.
She stopped at most 30 seconds. She did a few swimsuit changes. She swapped out her goggles, and now she's extremely weak. But she's got no quit in her. It was amazing and inspirational to watch her. And in a few minutes, she'll be coming up on shore, and hopefully everything will be okay. We have the medical here. She'll be taken immediately to the hospital. But I believe she'll be treated for severe dehydration, and possibly muscle tears in her lats and upper body, and certainly extreme soreness.
It's an honor and it's a privilege for us to meet her and for us to help her out throughout her journey. And that is one thing that the Cayman Islands should be proud of. And I would like to thank her so much.
This is what people will tell their grandkids about 20, 50 years from now. That Penny Palfrey was able to bridge the island for the first time, taking a 68-mile, over 40-hour swim under tough conditions with using the entire community.
It's really exciting because it's gonna be like the biggest world record probably. And it's gonna be really exciting because we have a big crowd, and it's like really far. So
I'm representing Radio Cayman. Radio Cayman, obviously happy to be a part of such a huge event and a huge occasion. Great thing for the Cayman Islands in general. Great thing for sports in the Cayman Islands. Great thing for tourism in the Cayman Islands. And we're just privileged, like you guys are, to be a part of this huge event. As we stand right here now, in the final stages, we're just hoping that, she comes through safely. And we hope, of course, everybody is excited and happy with the results of what's happened here this past week. I started swimming from Cayman Brac to Little Cayman, and then you can trek from Little Cayman all the way here to Grand Cayman. And it's a beautiful thing.
It is now 9:23 Cayman time. We're expecting Penny eminently. None of us at Team Flowers have slept for 24 plus hours. We are so excited for this incredible lady to cross the finish line and to get on that sand and set this world record. This is not just Team Flowers or the Flowers Group. It has been an entire community effort for Cayman. So many amazing companies have come out and helped us. The people of East End, the people of West Bay, the people of Georgetown, the people of every district have just come out and supported us and Penny and her historic swim tonight. We're just very excited for it to happen. It is a vision that Papa Frank has had for over a year and wanted to happen. I think we're seeing some boat action, so we might want to run to the
Can you, just very briefly, can you tell us something about your grandkids?
Well, I only have one. I have 3 children. They're aged 19, 22 and 25. And the eldest is married and has a 3-year-old grandson. Well, I have a 3-year-old grandson and he has a son. His name is Toby and he's gorgeous.
Is there any message you want to put out there to a young Caymanian that's potentially either Olympian or marathon swimmer or anything like that?
I went to the Meals on Wheels fundraising dinner the other night and met a lot of Caymanian children from here, all the swimmers, and queuing up for autographs, and they were just absolutely gorgeous. They're all keen and excited and loving their swimming. A lot of them are here today swimming, which is just wonderful to see. One little fella came up and said, I better watch out, he was going to do the bridge swim in a few years. So good for you. I hope you do. And good on you, kids. Keep swimming.
Thank you very much, Penny.
Thank you.
You're awesome. It's fantastic to have an Aussie come over and do something like that. That's it's amazing.
By the time, hopefully,
I'm sorry. Let me get back there.
You're swimming and you've enjoyed our beautiful island. We just wanted to welcome you and say that we're very appreciative of you choosing Cayman as a destination to do this historic event.
So, sorry.
I'm reminded of a story that Penny and her husband Chris told me a couple of years ago. I don't know, before or after the swim. They live in Queensland, and they swim in a beach they're surrounded by a shark net. And there was a storm or something the night before, but they went out at 5 o'clock in the morning in the dark. They were swimming along, and they hit something solid in the water. And it was the sign that said, no swimming, saltwater crocodiles are inside the net or something like that. I'm thinking she probably hit that solid object out there and said, well, at least it's probably not saltwater crocodiles out here.
Yeah, yeah. No, it was a great thing to be a part of. It was a great thing to see. You know, you saw Penny a week later. I mean, she was normal. Now, the next day, she still had this swollen face. You know, I think it took her a good 3 or 4 days before she could eat normally. But yeah, it was a great event. And, you know, maybe one day we'll get Penny to relive it from her first person perspective. So.
Thank you very much, Steve, for telling us the story. And Penny, you're always welcome.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.